Hey everyone, Fish is in the house. Okay, today in this video, we're going to talk a little bit about what the actual definition of borderline personality is. And I'm going to be taking my information from this little booklet here, written by a woman named Kathy Wiseman. It's called Borderline Personality, A Scriptural Perspective. We're going to have a definition of what the psychiatric community calls it. Then there's going to be a biblical perspective and an explanation of that. And then we'll talk a little bit about what goes on with borderline personality. Okay. The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of the American Psychiatric Association, edition 4, says that BPD is described as follows: a pervasive pattern of instability of interpersonal relationships, self-image, and affects emotions, and marked impulsivity beginning in early adulthood and present in a variety of contexts, as indicated by 5 or more of the following 9 symptoms. 1. Identity disturbance / unstable sense of self. 2. Chronic feelings of emptiness. 3. Fear of abandonment. 4. Emotional instability. 5. Unstable interpersonal relationships. 6. Intense rage. 7. Paranoia or dissociative symptoms. 8. Impulsivity / self-damaging behaviors. And 9. Suicidal / self-mutilating behavior. That's a pretty intense description of what the experts out there think about people who have BPD. And I'm sure that there are some people that meet a lot of those, but you have to have 5 of those 9 symptoms to be clinically diagnosed with borderline personality. Now, we have a biblical description, and this is taken from Galatians 5:19 through 21. And the Bible says that these are works of the flesh, and they originate in the heart. Okay, so Galatians 5:19 through 21 says, "Now the works of the flesh are evident, which are adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lewdness, idolatry, sorcery, hatred, contentions, jealousies, outbursts of wrath, selfish ambitions, dissensions, heresies, envy, murders, drunkenness, revelries, and the like." So, what does that mean, these works of the flesh? Well, here's a little bit of just a plain English definition for that biblical stance there out of the same little booklet. Describes people having BPD as having a pervasive pattern of demanding interpersonal relationships, unstable self-image, volatile emotions, and marked impulsiveness. These individuals demand suffocating intimacy in their relationships, and yet their hurtful behavior destroys these relationships. Now, anyone suffering with borderline personality knows that life can be a pain in the rear end, because people like me who have this disorder, we're not like everybody else. Everybody sees things in shades, from black to white and many, many shades of gray. Well, people with BPD, they don't see things like that. They see it either black or white. There's either love or hate. There's like no in between. And that's really hard to deal with because, if you're married, one moment your spouse could be the greatest thing on earth, a gift from God, and then you can have a BPD episode and I hate you, I can't stand you. And it goes that way with everything. There's just black and white and no shades of gray. And the least little thing that can trigger these emotions can cause you to go into a full-out fit of anger. And it can be very hurtful to those you love and very hurtful to the people that you're dealing with. Say if you're on the praise and worship team at church and somebody does something you don't like and you go have a BPD episode, you can say very hurtful things that are hard to bounce back from because, people don't want to put up with that kind of stuff. And they don't realize that we're going through something that we can't really control as per se as just dealing with normal emotions. And I don't know if I said this in the last video, but somebody with BPD, normal people, people with BPD are always on high emotional alert, let's say. Normal people walk around with their emotions running about 25-30%. BPD people are walking around all the time at 80%, and any little thing that happens can send them over 100, and they just have these meltdowns, and you just lose it, and it's very hard for people to deal with that. It can cause a lot of animosity. It can break down friendships. It can cause a lot of problems. And people don't understand that's just not something we can turn off. It's there. It's a disorder. That's why it's called that. And the best thing that people that have this can do is to get some kind of help in counseling, because it's hard to deal with on your own. Now, I've been going to counseling for some time now. I have a wonderful counselor, Christian counseling. And you have to remember, a lot of my perspective is going to be biblical because I am a follower of Christ. And, my thinking is go to the Bible because that's the Word of God. And, that might not be good for anybody who's not a Christian here, but you can just take that with a grain of salt and you listen to it and see what it says and make your own decision. But that's what I base my stuff on because I am a Christian. And, a lot of people think that just because you become a Christian that life's going to be all hunky-dory, but it's not like that. It's still life. We still go through the same things. We still have our human emotions and our human foibles, let's say, or, that nature, that's human nature, We don't just turn into these people who are wonderful, great, non-sinning individuals. And we still deal with all the things in life, including the things that affect us that have BPD. I myself have, in the past, have had many, many, many meltdowns, and I hate it because it's just a horrible feeling afterwards. Fortunately, I'm not like most people with this disorder. Mine's kind of weird because most BPD people, they have problems wherever they are, out in public, in church, at work. They have meltdowns wherever something triggers their emotions. Mine's weird. The only two people that suffer from my BPD outbursts are my wife and, unfortunately, my wonderful God. Those are the only two people I ever get mad at. It's my wonderful wife and my wonderful God. And each time I have a meltdown that involves either one of those two, it's just a horrible feeling afterwards. You feel like a failure. You feel like you can't do anything right, but that's not true. You're dealing with a disorder. It's something that needs to be worked on, and it's hard. It's not easy. No one ever said that going through this was just going to be a walk in the park. It's a very hard thing to deal with. That's why it's so important that if you're suffering with this disorder, you need to find a good counselor and get help. because they can teach you things that you never really thought about how to deal with this stuff. One of the things I've learned is that anger is just one emotion that's in the center. And each time you get angry, it's not always anger. It could be anything. It could be fear, guilt, shame, hopelessness. You know, there are so many different emotions. Fear is just one. And BPD people tend to vacillate to anger, because in anger, you're in control. And all these other emotions that are going on, you're not in control, and we don't like to feel not in control. So we default to anger because it gives us control. We're the ones in control. As an example, somebody who has a fear of abandonment, because they think their spouse might abandon them, they push and push and push, like, I'm going to be the one who makes this happen. You're not just going to leave me. And it's a weird way of thinking, because it's a kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, but it's one of the funny characteristics of borderline personality disorder. We kind of do that self-fulfilling prophecy thing where we actually cause the problems that we're afraid of. We just do things that tend to cause the problems that we're afraid of all the time. So I would encourage you to find this book online. Again, it's called Borderline Personality, A Scriptural Perspective. It's by a lady named Kathy Weissman. It's really short. It's a booklet, actually. And I'll be pulling some more stuff out of here probably throughout the videos. But the first thing to realize is understanding what you're going through is the beginning. And that's only the first step. Once you realize that you're suffering from borderline personality disorder, knowledge isn't just going to make it go away. You're going to have to do something to help yourself. And getting counseling is the best, because you can get things that are pent up in you out. You can talk about them and understand why this is happening to you. And it really, really helps. I've been going for a while now, and my episodes seem to be less and less, and they're not as intense as they used to be. I've had some really bad ones where I've cussed God out and told it I hate him. Get out of my bleep bleep life. And it's terrible. It's the most horrible feeling in the world. And within an hour later, I'm on my knees asking for forgiveness. I've said things to my wife that I wouldn't say to my worst enemy out of anger because of BPD. And again, within an hour, I'm begging her for forgiveness, because it's just the most horrible thing. But it's something you have to learn to deal with, and you can't do it on your own. So the best thing I could tell you is find yourself a good counselor that is knowledgeable in borderline personality disorder. If you're a Christian, find Christian counseling. If you're not, just find a good counselor. They're out there, because there's specific ways that they have of dealing with this disorder that it's not like other disorders. They have a different way of dealing with it. But you need to do something about it. Just don't say, oh, I'm going to work on it myself, because it's not going to work. It's not going to work. You need to find someone to help you. Well, I guess that's going to be it for this week. I just wanted to get a definition of what borderline personality disorder actually is. And next week, we'll talk a little bit more about what I've been through and how I deal with it and some of the stuff that I'm learning. I don't know, I might get repetitive. My MS causes me to forget things, so I might repeat myself. Just please be patient with me, because I'm dealing with a lot of stuff. So, this is Fish. I'll see you next week. I hope you guys all have a great week. Just try to find yourself some help. Talk to people. Get a counselor. All right. Peace out.